All right. Welcome. What I believe is episode 35 of Mazecast. We're going to be talking about Room 7 tonight. Room 7 has been mentioned over and over on this show as an example of a room that I think has a pretty good solution to it that has not been around for too long. It was discovered by our buddy Greg last year. But those of you who have been watching the show the past couple times, all 7 of you, are aware that the first thing we do nowadays is we go to Gaming Night for his take on the room before any of our solutions have been given or he has any idea what we think about the room. Senior Gaming Night, what are your thoughts on Room 7?
Well, it's got a lot of going on, a lot of pictures. Like it looks like a lot of modern art and stuff like that in here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anything stick? Is this a room you've spent much time looking at?
Not really. It's gonna be a
Okay.
really interesting room though. And definitely got the they definitely got it looks like the portrait of the guy in a hat though next to the number 33 though.
Yeah. You recognize him as being the same guy from 16 that's running away?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the general idea. Or at least that's what everyone seems to want to see that guy as. Anything about the pictures in particular? Do you connect any of those with maybe being the guide, or any idea which one of them you connect with the phrase in the text about how the group didn't think the picture on the wall was a very good likeness?
I think they're referring to the I can't think of his name right now. The Picasso thing. Yeah.
I think that picture was put there to be a potential reference, like so that that's like a plausible explanation for what they're referring to. I don't know if that's meant to actually be what they're referring to or not.
I spent a little time looking it up. I couldn't find any pictures that resemble exactly like that. I think it's just sort of to allude to Picasso maybe without any specific painting.
It's hard, it's in the nature of Picasso's work that it's hard to tell whether he is imitating Picasso or just trying to draw a bad picture, Like,
At the same time, I think you brought up a good point a couple of weeks ago about how there's a star in that picture. Maybe it's not about the picture at all. Maybe it's just to direct your attention to the star. That's a theme in a couple of the other rooms.
Yeah, I mean, not to jump too far ahead, but I've noted before that the Minotaur's name was Asterion, which means the starry one, and we've got, like in room 4, that face among the stars on the sun that the guide tells them not to pay any attention to, and then here we've got this sort of crummy drawing with the stars surrounding it. So there could be something with the starriness there. Or maybe it has something to do with the room, the puzzle, I don't know. Well, let's go into talking about solutions in the room, though. Although, to tell you the truth, I don't have a whole lot to say solution-wise, but maybe we'll go through some of these pictures. The big solution here, which I think is one of the better ones that we found in the book, has to do with the eyes that you can't see on the pictures here. And what it is if you look at like the pictures on the left side, so we'll say on the left side of 36, we've got this one-eyed fellow here at the top who's in the picture with a woman, and you can't see his right eye. We've got the crummy drawing here, which is faced sideways, so we can't see his right eye. And then we got this fellow with the crown down here whose face is cut off by the side of the page, and so we can't see his right eye. So we have 3 missing right eyes on that side. Go to the other side, and we've got this person here whose eye is covered up by the lamp. We've got this woman over here by the number 16 who's looking sideways, so we can only see one of her eyes. And then we got this chubby-looking dude over here whose eye is just cut off by the edge of the paper. So we've got 3 missing right eyes, 3 missing left eyes, which we take to be an indication of 33. I think that's pretty good. In addition to that, there's a lot of stuff that's been thrown out as 3 and 3 that I don't find as convincing, but maybe that's what it's there for. We've got this landscape picture over here that has 3 nails at the top and 3 clouds down below. So that's kind of a 3 and 3. There's 3 tail feathers on this bird toy. That's just 1 3, but for some reason it gets thrown out. It's been suggested that there are 3 rings on the bottom of this lamp, although I don't know.
Yeah, I don't buy it. I don't buy that
I
one.
see more than that.
There's a lot of design going on there with a lot of circles and things. I think I can see the 3 like lumpy ring things that they're referring to, but there's so much going on there that it seems kind of arbitrary to pick out what you want to call 3. And then there are like 3 parts at the bottom of the whatever you want to call the topper on the lamp there.
You just you start to digress though, because then you can just start saying, oh well, there's triangular roofs to the doors, that kind of stuff.
Well, that's interesting. There are
3 tails on the toy duck, that kind of shit.
There are triangles on top of the doors, and at the top of the triangle, there's another little thing sticking out that's a little bit triangular. Almost like there's a little triangle on top of the triangle. And in 33, where the answer is 3 from there, there's a triangle as well, which is probably related to the correct door being 3. So I'm not sure that the triangles aren't a design element meant to reflect the right answer. But it's certainly not something you would rely on in the first instance to tell you that 33 is the right answer. There are 3 doorways, which wouldn't seem like such a big deal, except it is highlighted by the text in the first sentence. It says a pleasant room with 3 doors and a lamp. If there were a good way that lamp gave you another 3, that would actually be a pretty good clue to 33, but as noted before, I don't think counting some specific rings on that lamp is a very convincing way to get to 33. What do you think of this one? Look at the columns in the doorways that are supporting, well, just the side parts of the doorways. Do you think those look like ones? Like those are 11s?
Yeah, I've sort of speculated on that, the 11s, and then you could have eyes on top of the little columns there that sort of match the look of the eye of the Picasso and also the the wheels of the duck. I'm just joking here, by the way.
Well, the 11s I only brought up because if you've got 11, 11, 11, then you get 33. But the obvious problem with that is that all the upright structures and doorways are going to look something like a 1. These look a little more like 1s than the things you see on other pages if you flip through, but it's not.
It's a good theory. Yeah, I haven't heard that before. I think it's a good theory.
Okay. Great. You heard it here first. Crack the room again. Another one.
Boom.
5-star on the Mazecast.
The only thing I can think of in terms of the light is, the lamp is, in terms of silence and noise, like false clues, like silence being just as important as noise. I'm thinking the lamp, because it's in the corner between 36 and 16, it's sort of hinting to those 2 doors, the same way that in the text the pictures are hinted to of the wrong doors.
What do you think the fact that the lamp is off makes it like a darkness clue?
No, I mean its presence, because it's mentioned in the text, so it classifies it as noise rather than silence, and because it's those doors, it's anyway, it's a stretch, but I don't know, it's a thought.
Although I've never really thought about that before, whether that means anything that the lamp is clearly turned off. Not only do we not see light coming from it, but you can look underneath it and see that it's casting a shadow down below it, where the lampshade is blocking out light.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
I don't know what to do with that, but it is interesting that we know that the lamp is turned off. In fact, it makes me wonder if that's the reason why we see it plugged in, is to make us think about the fact that we're not getting any light from it. Huh.
Maybe clue that with the sort of pair it up with a duck. You know how on those old-fashioned lights you had the chain that you pull to switch it on, sort of like the chain on the duck.
Yeah, there is something similar between. I mean, they both have strings coming off of them.
Yeah, you can't actually see the chain on the lamp, but I'm assuming that I don't know. He could have been hinting to that.
Maybe, and we don't know really what to do with putting those two things together, but it could be that there's some kind of parallel between the lamp and the pool toy. Gaming Night hit it when he said there's a lot of stuff going on in this room, and there's a lot of stuff you can look at and kind of say something about, but I have no idea what's going on with it. There's a rug coming out of 16, which
It kind of looks like a 3, though. You know, almost.
Oh, I can kind of see what you're saying there, like a curve at the top and a curve at the bottom. That middle bit's a little funny for a 3.
Yeah. A little funny, but
It's been noted that it looks like a nose, that it looks maybe like an animal skin, like a fur. But I don't know. To me, it's not distinct enough to really tell if it's a fuzzy carpet or an animal hide or what.
I've always joked about this room having a lot pointing towards the guide. Notably, the cattle horns on top of the, if it is the Minotaur, as you call it, cattle horns, the nose type appearance of the rug, the mentioning of it in the text.
Yeah, I mean, this is in that circle of rooms with 36 and 16 that seem to contain a lot of information about the guide, or at least a lot of suggestions about who the guide would be. Maybe they're all false. This has that statement, "Weren't you ever irresponsible," I asked, "thinking of my childhood and how wild I had been." Which fits okay with the Minotaur. You don't like the way I say Minotaur? You say Minotaur, like Minos.
Tomato.
Yeah. It would sort of, I like how that goes along with the Minotaur. It's a little strange because obviously the Minotaur as he exists, if he is the guide in here, is sort of different from the Minotaur we think of from Greek mythology, because that was just like a crazy monster that lived in a maze and ate people every few years. Not someone who's going to put together ingenious puzzles and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So,
this one, he reminds me more of Mr. Ed.
What?
Because he's talking. He's like a talking creature and whatever.
Okay. Yeah. When you think of someone who talks, obviously you go to Mr. Ed.
Yeah, you know Mr. Ed. He's
I know Mr. Ed. Mr. Ed can talk. I agree. I'll give you that one.
got butter on his lips so that it... Anyway.
Oh, Jesus. Now what? Oh, anyway. But the point is, this seems to be a slightly different take on the Minotaur, if it is the Minotaur. When he references being wild in his childhood, that seems like he's referencing the classic Minotaur, that we think of being wild and crazy. It could be, because there are several references to this being the underworld, and there's a reference in room 22 to him being a judge, that the Minotaur in this version is the Minotaur that has died and exists in hell, as described in Dante's Inferno, who is a judge of sorts down there, I believe. Not quite the same capacity as King Minos is. But even then, I think the Minotaur is just kind of a crazy, snarling beast. But in any case, it's obviously, whatever character we map onto the guide, there are going to be slight differences because no figure actually did create a maze and do this kind of stuff in it. We've got Top Hat's picture up there next to 33. And if we knew what to do with Top Hat at all, then maybe we'd have an idea what that means, but we don't. We just know that we got a guy in a top hat in 16. We've got a picture of a guy in a top hat here. We've got a top-hatted guy, stick figure drawn on the wall in 3. We've got a top hat in 18. We've got some other guy in a hat in 34. And we don't know what to do with any of that stuff, if there is anything to do. It certainly seems like this top-hatted character is something. Oh, also a top-hatted dancer in room 10. Forgot about that. And so we've got a top hat here. Another reason to think it's the same person and not just another person in a top hat is that in 16, Top Hat appears fearful and is running away from the group, apparently running away from the guide is what it seems. And then in this room, Top Hat seems to be peering fearfully over the corner of the picture and kind of staring out at the room as if he's afraid of the group here too. So it does seem like this is supposed to be the same top hat in both cases.
I have a feeling like we've talked about this with Greg, and he had he thought, I guess I'll talk on his behalf. He said that those two guys at the top above 33 were looking out over 16, or maybe that the guide would be standing in front of the mirror. One of those two theories. I can't remember specifically.
Yeah, and I just read it today, and I can't remember specifically either. I think he said Top Hat was looking at the landscape picture, and that's supposed to draw our attention to the 3 nails and the 3 clouds there. But I can't remember. And one of them might have been looking at the toy because he mentioned the 3 tail ribbons on that too. I guess on the toy there are 3 tail ribbons and 3 visible wheels. There's your 33. What a rock-solid solution. We're just cracking them out. Actually, someone probably said that a long time ago. 36, for whatever reason, is the only doorway that has a door in it, and it's partially open, and it has a piece of paper stuck to it, which I and Gentile have both Gentile, we both suggested that is a note referring to, in the statement in the text, that music's being played nearby. We know the music is coming from 36, where you've got the guitarist and the viola player. And I don't know what the point is of including that information in room 7. It's kind of an unusual inter-room connection to put that in there.
Wait a second. So how does the note on the door relate to 36?
It's like a pun note, like a musical note.
Got it.
Yeah. But I don't know why. I don't know why he's making a point of talking about the music being played nearby when we're not supposed to go there. Like in 39, when he makes reference to the hammering and chopping. That kind of leads us back to room 4, because we've been there before. We know that's where the noise is coming from, whatever. But here, he mentions the music from another room, and we've got this note on the door, which you could match up with the comment on music, but there's not really any reason to go there. On the other hand, maybe the statement about music is meant to be ambiguous, because if you go to 33, then you've got a violin and some kind of horn in there. There's nobody playing it, but there's some musical stuff going on there. So maybe there's supposed to be some kind of trail with regard to music going on. I don't know, though. You go to 36 and it mentions the music we had been hearing. Here it says you can hear music. It does seem like the connection is there specifically to 36. Another interesting thing about those triangles is that they're sort of, above the doors, that sort of relates to the setup of these rooms themselves.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Beat me to it. This is really the deepest recess of the maze, right? This is the far end of the loop.
Yeah.
You'll have to go a ways to get back to 41 and 1.
Yeah. Yeah, 36 and 16 are pretty far out there.
This is the only room you can get out of that little triangle from. Through 33.
Right. Yeah, from 36 and 16, you have to come back here and go to 33, and then go to 3. That's interesting. I never really thought about that before, about this set of rooms being like a triangle, and the answer being 33, and then the answer in the next room being 3, and having more triangle stuff there. I don't know. I mean, it could have just happened that way, but I think it's pretty interesting. Um,
Well, we don't need Greg when we got the cell phone. Hey, we should do 16.
Who else do we have in pictures here? We've got this fellow down at the bottom left. Let me go back to screen sharing. This fellow down at the bottom left here. Now, I don't know about anyone else, but I've always thought of that as being suggestive of being the guide's face. The reason being at the beginning when it says they didn't notice my crown, my pain, the fire in my eyes. And then we've got here this large portrait, although it's cut off so we can only see part of it, and it's a guy wearing a crown. And he does seem to have sort of a pained expression on his face to me. Like I could see this fitting that description of a man in a crown, his pain, the fire in his eyes. That doesn't. I think at least it was put there for us to think it was the guide, not necessarily that it was the guide. But I mean, I don't think I'm alone in that, right?
No, yeah, I thought when I was a kid, I thought that was the guide, but now I'm more leaning towards either the mirror or even the Picasso.
Yeah.
Or even Top Hat now, because Greg almost convinced me completely.
The Top Hat is the guide?
Yeah, maybe. Either that or Manson.
Well, and then we've got this fellow on the top left here, who he's not even clear enough that you can see what he looks like, but for some reason I get the feeling that could be a self-portrait of Manson. I don't know why. And then I've read on the Abyss, other people have suggested it as well. I don't know why you get that feeling. It seems maybe like a little more realistic than the other pictures.
It sort of looks like he's got the same beard as the picture of Manson. The only picture of Manson that I've seen on the Abyss.
Only picture ever taken of Christopher Manson.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess what I'm saying is, if it's not Manson or, yeah, like if it's not Manson, like if it's not somebody mythological, then I definitely think that it's Manson, man's son man.
Yeah, it certainly gives that feeling for some reason. Yeah, you have to wonder. It seems like he must have had some reason for choosing the particular people in these portraits, even if he didn't design a puzzle around them. Just when you're choosing different kinds of people to draw, you'd think he would have had some reason, whether this guy is supposed to look like his brother and this guy just looks like one of his favorite characters or something. But you'd think this would be the kind of place where he would have fun, draw whatever kind of person he wanted. But we've got the two people. I don't really know anything to say about them. A man and a woman above the monk. We've got the monk.
They look more like children to me than man and woman. I always thought that.
I think you're right.
Because of the reference in the text.
They do look young, and for some reason I've always thought of them as brother and sister.
Seer-looking, wizard-looking guy.
Yeah, they do mention an old man in there. Why don't they pick up after themselves? He said, sounding like an old man. And then we've got thinking of childhood. I'm sorry, what did you say, Gaming Night? I missed it.
I said the guy looks like the wizard kind of looks like a seer or something. The old man in there.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that dude with the long beard. For some reason, he looks like some image I've got in my mind of some kind of lawgiver. But I've tried to look up images of people who, I don't know, famous codifier of laws, and I can't find any image that actually matches him. But he
For those
looks.
who don't know, we did a bunch of work on tarot in the maze. I think this one came under the sage.
Oh, is that a tarot card?
Oh yeah, something like that, like a sagely old man. I don't know if it was called that specifically. The Hierophant, that's it. The Hierophant,
Oh, okay. Well, that could be.
which is basically an old man.
I didn't even remember that.
Yeah, this is a long time ago. I should put it on the new website for people to mull over.
We've got the monk down there. Don't know what to make of the fact that he's a monk. He's standing on a checkered floor, which makes you think of room 41 and the checkered floor there.
Or that he's
Like a chess piece or something.
yeah.
That he's what?
Like a chess piece.
Yeah, it's been suggested. He's been, I don't remember who, someone tried to associate him with a bishop because of it, but although it doesn't really quite work. Next to him,
It was me. It was me, and the reason I said that is because there's also a king in this, and arguably even a queen, as the centerpiece on top of the lamp. So it looks like a pawn piece. I wasn't going anywhere with that. I was just. I think I made those observations on the abyss.
Next to him, we have the bullhorn frame. Now, typically, this has been viewed as a mirror, and that's the way I always thought. But recently, I've started questioning that because you don't see any reflection in it, and I think it could just be a frame that's had the picture removed from it, which would kind of put it in line. If the guide were the Minotaur, and you've got like the notice in room 6 where it's going to tell you who the guide is, but then the notice is torn in half so that you can't see. And we've got a painting in room 9 that's been damaged that looks like it's a Greek warrior fighting something, but the picture has been cut so that you can't see what the Greek warrior is fighting, which is suggestive to me that it's like the image of the Minotaur, but it's been tore up so that you can't see it. And then here we've got bullhorns on there suggesting that this would have been a picture of the Minotaur, but the picture has been removed so that we can't see it. I don't know. It's certainly, if it were supposed to be the frame with the picture removed, I don't know how else he would have drawn it unless he would have tried to make it an empty frame. If it were a mirror, I guess he might have drawn it the same way, although I don't know why he wouldn't have just drawn what was reflecting in it, except that maybe it would have been kind of complicated to try to figure that out.
Yeah, it would have made it hard to draw, I think.
Yeah, it would have been hard. So I don't know. What do you think? Mirror, empty frame? Who knows?
I think mirror.
Okay.
But like you said, it's arguably it could be something taken out. I mean, why the bullhorns though? That gets me. The cattle horns.
I mean, it has to be suggestive. I mean, it has to be there to suggest a Minotaur, you know.
Or the guide is texting.
But see, that's because again, we've talked about this before. Because the Minotaur fits so well in so many places, it's hard to say whether we've correctly identified it as the Minotaur or he's just heavily leading us astray with Minotaur references. So on the other side, we've got the old man with the long beard holding a book. We've mentioned that. I don't know, wizard, hierophant, whatever the hell he is. Below that, the person whose eye is covered up. I don't know how you describe that person.
Looks like a jester or a joker.
Yeah, he sort of looks like one of the characters in the Cask of Amontillado.
Amontillado.
Yeah, Amontillado, yeah.
And then
Story, yeah.
And then the person, the picture next to that on the right, that certainly looks to me like a clown, right?
Yeah, like a harlequin.
Yeah, with the pointed hat there. Now, above that, we've got another fellow in a tuxedo with a hat. I don't really identify this person with any other hatted or tuxedo wearing person in the maze. I
He
guess.
looks more like Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah, he does look like Stan Laurel. A woman above there. I was thinking about this. This is she and the girl over here are notable, I think, for being the only female characters depicted in the maze. Am I right about that? I can't think.
Well, the ballerina in 10.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, we'll count that. That's 3. I guess the Sphinx is female. So there are a few, but by and large, it's men that are in the maze. Across from that, we've got a fellow in a suit and tie, some glasses, a walrusy mustache, and below that, this fat dude whose eye is getting cut off. Now, here's part of the problem with the eye thing, and I've mentioned a couple times on here how this guy, Andrew Plotkin, who was heavy into maze a long time ago and is not too interested in it now, and he kind of poo-pooed this three eye solution. But I can kind of see where he's coming from, because here's the thing. If you look at the jester down here, the one with the pointy hat, it's real hard to tell whether that the left eye, the jester's left, that left eye is whether we're looking at it or not, you know? The head is just sort of barely tilted so that you can see something over there, but it's not clear whether it's an eye or not. I think if you look closely, you can see the dot of a pupil over there. Now this guy, though, the fat guy on the side, you can clearly, I think, see part of his eye, but you can't see the pupil. The pupil is cut off by the side of the picture. So you sort of have to decide that you're going to count pupils. Like if you can see the pupil, then you're seeing the eye. You know what I mean?
I only count 2 on each wall. I only count clearly 2 because the monk, you can sort of see his pupil, and I would argue to say that you could see the Harlequin's second eye. That there's only 2 but there's only 2 one-eyed people per wall.
Right.
You say.
Right. What I'm saying is, it's the fat guy over here. If you needed to, you could say that. Well, you can see his left eye there because you can clearly see part of it. You just can't see the pupil.
Yeah.
And the Harlequin, I guess, is you at least have to look pretty hard to see that other eye. Which it seems weird because, you know, why not just make it straightforward and obvious to count? Because it's not like it makes the puzzle any easier, you know? It's not like if it were easy to tell which ones have 1 eye and which one have 2, it's not like we would then instantly see the room and say, 3 missing left eyes and 3 missing right eyes. All it does is, after you've gotten the solution, make it seem a little clearer that that's what was intended. But when you kind of muddy the waters for people even after they've devised the solution, I don't know, it gives doubt that doesn't really have anything to do with challenge or anything, but just leaves people dissatisfied with the solution.
I tried counting the eyes too. That didn't come up with anything. I came up with like 24 or 25.
Oh, total eyes? Then a landscape picture here. I don't know why the landscape. It seems like an odd thing to throw in just so you could have some 3 and 3 going on. So, I think that's, I don't know, does anyone have anything to say on anything else in the room?
Yeah, the duck doesn't. Actually, well, the duck, it looks most like the bird, I think, in 32 more than any other bird.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Oh, and I mean, it's obvious, but that's the same pull toy that we see in 39. So there's some kind of repeated element there, but again, who knows? Well, it has a much longer tail than the 32 bird, which makes it kind of like the 21 bird. But it doesn't have the bill. And it kind of has the stature, maybe, of the tiny bird in 44. I don't know. I think all the birds are supposed to be not specific kinds of birds. And this bird seems to be a reference to all the different kinds of birds in these.
Are there more birds than umbrellas?
I think so, if you count the toys. Because the umbrella, you've got one up front, you've got one in 42, you've got one in 8, and one in 10. I think that's it. I think just 4 umbrellas. I guess in 8 you kind of have 2 because you also have a picture of an umbrella. Well, in 42 you have multiple ones, or I think it's just one umbrella in the elephant foot umbrella stand, and then 2 canes. But then you've got 3 birds and 2 bird toys. So the birds and the umbrella are slightly outnumbered. But not quite as iconic a representation of the maze, just because the umbrella's right out front when you get there, you know. Let's go through the text here. Pleasant room with 3 doors and a lamp. It's interesting that it brings out 3 doors and the lamp. Those are the elements that it specifies when it's describing the room. You know, you would think that the fact the room is more notable for having all these pictures on the wall, and it's not clear why the lamp is what stands out. Looking at the picture on the wall, they decided it wasn't a very good likeness. And this is deliberately ambiguous. You know, they could be the picture on the bottom left is the guide, but they don't think it looks very much like him. It could be they're talking about the Picasso-style portrait that's just not very well done. Could be they're talking about Manson's picture that doesn't look too much like him. Could be that they're talking about the Minotaur picture, I guess. But that's left deliberately vague what they're talking about there.
I mean, you could be talking about the guy, the fat guy or whatever on that thing too.
Just because it's not a very good one?
Yeah.
One of them almost fell over something on the floor. Why don't they pick up after themselves, he said, sounding like an old man. And presumably the thing that they almost fell over on the floor is the toy. I guess hypothetically it could be the rug, but it's most reasonably assumed to be the toy. Again,
Well, mention the children, right? So it's got to be the toy.
well, he doesn't say anything about children. He just says, why don't they pick up after themselves? But I guess that wouldn't really make sense for a rug. You know, you're right. It would have to be the toy. And the guide responds, weren't you ever irresponsible, I asked, thinking of my childhood and how wild I had been. It makes you wonder who's he talking about being irresponsible, who left this toy out. You know, we don't see any children in the maze who would have been playing with it. And he's suggesting at least that it was not deliberately placed there as a puzzle element, but it was left out by someone irresponsibly, which probably isn't true. Yeah, it seems like that's kind of just shoehorned in there so to get another statement about the guide's identity, him referencing having a wild past. Music was being played somewhere nearby. We stopped to listen for a moment. We talked about that earlier. Seems to be a reference to 36. I wonder what the relevance is of them stopping to listen for a moment. Stop, listen. It makes me wonder if we should be thinking about sounds for some reason.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Like how things that are mentioned, sort of like in 26, things that are mentioned are not the right answer.
Hmm.
The lamp. They don't mention the toy. I think the toy has a lot to do with that because it's pointing in the right direction. So it's like almost not exactly pointing towards 33, but that is the right direction it's pointing in. You could say the same in 39, but I think that's a different puzzle. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you there.
No, that's all right. Leaving the pictures, looking out at an empty room we went on to. Now that's kind of an odd statement because it doesn't seem like the room's going to be empty even after the group leaves it. It's still going to have the lamp in it. It's still going to have the toy in it. It's not clear whether it's suggesting that the room's empty just in the sense that it doesn't have people in it, or if it's suggesting that for some reason the toy was gone when they left, like they took it with them, or they picked it up, or what happened. It's kind of an odd thing to say that the room was empty as they left. Now, Greg said that there was this line that got him started thinking about the pictures looking out and thinking about their eyes, and that's what led him to the solution. It's hard to say whether that was the deliberate purpose of that, although it does draw attention to. It does, I mean, draw attention to their eyes somewhat if you want to start thinking about them looking where they're looking. And he did do a lot, too, with saying that different pictures are looking at different things. I don't know that that's anything I can recreate or that I think really went anywhere. That's what I've got. Anyone have anything else they want to add? Picture, word-wise, anything about this room?
I think you covered it all.
Yeah, I don't think we had a lot of information to give. I think that the 3 and 3 eye thing is a pretty good solution, but it still has a lot of elements. We just don't know what they're doing in there. All right. Well, we'll see you next time on Mazecast 36. You know, we're getting close to the end of these episodes. I think we are past the 2/3 mark now. We're well past it. We've got 9 rooms left. So,
Mosey in.
all right. We'll see everybody next time.